I may not know the details of your journey, but I know this with certainty. No one ends up here by coincidence. You're not listening to these words by mistake. I've walked through those seasons where the road ahead was nothing but fog, where the questions in my mind had no answers, and the battles I fought were invisible to everyone else. And in those quiet, heavy moments, I stumbled across words that reached into my chest and reminded me of something I had forgotten, that strength was still alive in me, that I wasn't as lost as I thought. And maybe, just maybe, these words can be that same reminder for you now, that you are far stronger than you realize, and perfectly positioned for the chapter that comes next. Think about it. Haven't you noticed that the moments you've dreaded the most often leave the deepest mark on your life? It's strange, isn't it? A challenge that once looked like a wall you could never climb ends up becoming the very doorway that carried you somewhere new. Before every leap, fear makes its presence known. Standing on the edge of a new decision, whether it's moving to a new city, leaving a job that feels safe but draining, or stepping into the unknown, your body reacts, your chest tightens, your palms sweat, your thoughts race to every possible worst-case scenario. That's fear announcing itself, and it almost always shows up at the threshold of transformation. Here's the irony. Most of us treat fear like it's a red flashing warning sign screaming, "Turn back." We confuse it with intuition telling us not to proceed. But in many cases, it isn't a stop sign. It's expansion. It's your system's way of saying, you're stretching into new territory. The mind has a tendency to trick you into believing that unfamiliar means unsafe. Even if your comfort zone hasn't actually served you in years, your brain will sound alarms just to keep you there. That protective voice doesn't always distinguish between danger and growth. It just doesn't want you to change. Take something as ordinary as a job interview. Hours before it starts, your imagination runs wild. You picture yourself stumbling over answers, forgetting the interviewer's name, sweating through your shirt. The anxiety is overwhelming. And yet, isn't it interesting how those moments of nervous tension often signal that something meaningful is waiting on the other side? That pounding heartbeat and restless energy aren't proof you're failing. They're evidence that you're crossing into a version of yourself you haven't met yet. What feels like panic is often just the tremor of transformation preparing to unfold. What makes this even more fascinating is what science shows us. Fear and excitement activate almost identical pathways in the brain. The racing pulse, the energy flooding through your chest, the tingling in your hands. All of it could be labeled panic or anticipation. The body doesn't always know the difference. What shifts everything is the meaning you attach to it. If you tell yourself, "This is fear," you'll freeze. If you reframe it as, "This is excitement," you'll move forward. The signal is the same. The story you give it is what changes the outcome. History is filled with ordinary people who only discovered extraordinary strength because fear forced them into motion. They resisted change until life left them no choice. And when they finally stepped into the unknown, they realized they were capable of far more than they ever imagined. These aren't rare cases. They're reminders that transformation doesn't arrive dressed as certainty. It usually begins with trembling hands, shaky voices, and hearts that feel like they're about to burst. Picture someone who's stayed in the same draining job for years. It feels predictable, safe, even though deep down they know it's been stealing their energy. Every time they think about leaving, fear takes over. What if you fail? What if you regret it? What if nothing better is waiting? So, they stay, until one day, the decision is made for them. The job ends. In the first wave of shock, it feels like devastation. But slowly, space opens. And in that space, they discover new paths, ones they never would have considered before. That so-called security vanishing wasn't the worst thing. It was the catalyst for a future they didn't know was possible. And if you reflect on your own life, you'll likely see the same pattern. The moments that felt like the end, moving out of your comfort zone, letting go of relationships, stepping into risky projects, later turned out to be the very steps that led you to growth. None of it felt brave at the time. It felt terrifying. But in hindsight, fear was the signal that something inside of you was already expanding beyond the limits you thought you had. So next time you feel that knot in your stomach, ask yourself, what if this isn't a warning to stop, but proof you're standing exactly where growth happens? Once you begin to treat fear as a guide rather than a barrier, everything changes. It becomes less of a prison guard and more of a signpost, a reminder that what you've been asking, praying, or quietly hoping for is beginning to break through. Fear doesn't necessarily mean danger. Sometimes it means transformation has already started. And if that's true, then what about those quieter, uncertain seasons where nothing seems to be moving? Those stretches of time where life feels like a waiting room? You show up each day, trying to make progress, but doors stay shut. Job applications vanish into silence. Relationships drift apart. The big plan you once trusted doesn't seem to line up anymore. It feels like standing in a hallway where every door is locked and no key is in sight. Those seasons are brutal because they make you question yourself, whether you're broken, whether life has forgotten you. But here's the truth. Silence doesn't always mean nothing is happening. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean it isn't unfolding. Think of a seed buried in soil. For days, weeks, maybe months, you see nothing. It looks like the ground is empty, but beneath the surface, roots are forming, anchoring deep, preparing for the day the sprout finally breaks through. Without that hidden stage, the plant wouldn't survive above ground. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was necessary. Look back on a time you felt stuck, endlessly applying for jobs or chasing an opportunity that never seemed to open. In the moment, it felt like failure. But with distance, you can see how those closed doors redirected you. Maybe they forced you to develop a skill you never would have learned otherwise. Maybe they gave you the maturity you needed before the right opportunity arrived. The delay wasn't punishment, it was protection. It was preparation. There's a universal truth that shows up across every part of life. Endings rarely mean what we think they do. A breakup can feel like the permanent death of love, as though the future you imagined has been ripped away forever. A failed business can convince you that you're not built for success, that you don't have what it takes. In those moments, the pain is heavy, overwhelming, and blinding. It clouds your perspective so completely that all you can see is loss. But give it time, and a different picture emerges. That relationship didn't ruin you. It cleared the space for a connection that was healthier, deeper, more aligned with who you're becoming. That business idea you poured yourself into may not have lasted, but it forced you to shed your ego, to face rejection, and to grow the resilience that the next, more successful chapter required. In hindsight, the ending wasn't the destruction of your story. It was the turning of the page. It wasn't punishment. It was redirection. Learning to trust timing doesn't mean you sit idle, hoping for miracles to fall into your lap while you do nothing. It doesn't mean surrendering responsibility or waiting passively for life to hand you everything. No, trusting timing is about alignment. It's about moving with awareness instead of desperation. It's about taking steps forward while staying attuned to the signals around you. You show up, you do the work, you remain consistent, but you don't force doors that clearly aren't meant to open yet. You don't push your way into spaces that aren't ready for you. You let life guide you like a river guides a boat. You paddle, but you also let the current show you the way. That's not laziness, that's wisdom. That's trust in motion. It's the maturity to know the difference between giving up and giving in to the flow that's leading you somewhere better. And let's be honest with ourselves. If every dream you've ever prayed for had landed in your hands the exact moment you demanded it, would you have been ready, truly ready? For most of us, the answer is no. We would have dropped it, fumbled it, sabotaged it, because the strength, the patience, the discipline, the maturity to hold that blessing hadn't been developed yet. That's why life sometimes delays what you ask for, not to deny you, but to prepare you. Those delays are upgrades in disguise. They aren't rejection, they're reinforcement. Every season of waiting, every stretch of frustration, every locked door is building you into the kind of person who can not only reach the next level, but sustain it when you get there. You are not late. You are not left behind. Life doesn't run on your calendar. It runs on growth. Seeds don't break through the soil until their roots have grown strong enough in the dark. Rivers don't carve deep canyons overnight. It takes years of quiet, relentless pressure. Just because you can't see the movement doesn't mean nothing is happening. Waiting doesn't equal wasted. It equals foundation. The stillness is shaping you. The silence is structuring you. And if you're being shaped this deeply in hidden seasons, maybe the setbacks you hated weren't accidents at all. Maybe even the hardest detours were part of a guidance system you couldn't recognize at the time. That's why, when people look back, they often realize their greatest breakthroughs weren't born out of certainty. They were born out of confusion. They weren't born in perfect seasons. They came from the mess, from the moments where everything felt like it was falling apart. What looked like chaos was actually the alignment they couldn't see. The detours became the direction. The breakdowns became the blueprint. What looked like the wrong road turned out to be the only road that could lead them to where they are now. And if fear, timing, and detours are all signs, then maybe the fact that you're hearing this right now isn't random either. Maybe this is one of those signs. Maybe this is your reminder. You are not lost. You may feel uncertain, but uncertainty isn't proof that you've failed. It's proof that you're moving. You might not have the full map in your hands, but you don't need it yet. You're standing exactly where you need to be, and the next step will reveal itself at the right time. Life rarely hands you the entire picture up front, and maybe that's intentional. Maybe the point is to teach you to trust step by step, to lean into the unknown, to keep walking even when the destination isn't clear. So trust this moment. Don't dismiss it as nothing. Pay attention to the subtle signals that are already showing up around you. Notice what ideas won't leave you alone. Notice the dreams that keep tugging at your heart no matter how much you try to silence them. Those are not random. Lean into them. Follow them. Move forward with quiet confidence. Even if you don't have all the answers yet, even if fear still whispers in your ear, timing will reveal its purpose, just like it always has before. And maybe, just maybe, the fact that this message found you right now isn't coincidence at all. Maybe it's proof that your breakthrough is closer than you've ever imagined, closer than it's ever been.